Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Barry Kostrinsky. These are artist talks that we do every Tuesday. By the way, next Tuesday, I will be away. There won't be a talk, and then we'll pick it up the following Tuesday. You can always check the website. It's my full name.com and see details listed there. Tonight, Larry Aarons is going to talk to us a Bronx tale. He may throw in a story or two about himself or his experiences in the Bronx from either the 40s, the 50s, or the 60s. I feel like we should have a hot dog with sauerkraut while Larry talks to us, getting the full flavor. And maybe a fire hydrant should be just spraying, 100 gallons a second at our cars. So we're in for a treat. Maux Kelley is modeling for us. Again, if you'd like to contribute to Mo, you can reach out to me or to her directly. Thank you, Mo, for always being there for us. And Larry, before you start, I did want to screen share something myself that David Gregory sent to me. So wish me luck. I'm not the greatest at doing this, but let's see if I can do this because I want to show you something that he sent me that I found interesting, and then I'll have you screen share. So let's see, share screen, desktop. All right, so you should be seeing my desktop now. Good, you are.
Just the using two sides of your brain thing.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that one. Let's see. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if I can get the volume on. Just bear with me 1 second. I'll get this volume down.
They must be allowed to have dud experiments. They must also be allowed to have periods where they repeat themselves in a rather aimless, fruitless way before they can pick up and go on. The kind of attention that they get now, the kind of atmosphere of excitement which attends today the creation of works of art, the way that everything is done too much in the public eye, it's really too much. The pressures are of a kind which are anti-creative. Because artists must be allowed to go through bad periods. They must be allowed to do bad work. They must be allowed to get in a mess. They must be allowed to have dud experiments. They must also be allowed to have periods where they repeat themselves in a rather aimless, fruitless way before they can pick up and go on. The kind of attention that they get now, the kind of atmosphere of excitement which attends today the creation of works of art, the way that everything is done too much in the public eye, it's really too much. The pressures are of a kind which are anti-creative, because artists must.
Now, I never thought Luciano Pavarotti spoke so well.
Good, very good.
I'm sorry, I'm just making a joke that he does look like Luciano Pavarotti. But let
His
me.
English is very good.
When was that said? It looks like it's
Before
old.
he died.
I think 67,
Oh, wow.
I think.
It applies so much more now, even than that.
And if you notice, he says something in there that they must be allowed to do things over and over again, until they, get out of it. Most artists, that's what they do to make their money. They do the thing over and over again, and they really don't sort of generate to another form. And it's interesting that, he makes the point that that's like, oh, let them be repetitive. Almost like that's like a stopping ground before you then move on and move forward to something. But that little quote, and of course it is an old quote, it points out the problem of the public eye. We're all very much connected. You can do a work of art, you can throw it up, you can get a reaction very quickly. Sometimes you need to do a work of art that's bad. You need to sort of work through it. And it can be tricky when your art is constantly being seen. Then do you show work that's bad? Do you get a negative response? It gets a little more complicated. It was just sort of present that he made these points, what seems like so long ago. And I guess it just goes to show you, and whenever I see old films, the issues they bring up in the old films, they're the same issues we deal with today. And sometimes it's like, oh my God, that apartment was $24 a month. So the numbers change, but they're always complaining about rent. They're always complaining about costs, and they're complaining about work and, all the other things. So thanks for sharing that, David. Larry, I'll leave the screen to you. I'll just say it's always a pleasure to hear you speak with your great enthusiasm and, your sort of lust for life. And go ahead, present anything you like, a Bronx tale.
So I would like to do that because that in fact is the first painting I'm going to share with you. What I've done is I've made it my business to have each painting have a theme. Obviously, it's important. So let me read you what I wrote for this particular painting, and then I'll keep going. And, I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have like 10 paintings. We could go fast, we can go slow, but let me read the first thing that I put down, and it's called A Bronx Tale, A Touch of Home. As I reminisced about my life growing up in the Bronx, my mom would hang out of the window, always waiting for me and yelling to come upstairs. During the summer, we had no air conditioning. I would sleep on the fire escape. It was moments that I'll never forget. The painting says so much about me, and maybe for you too.
Do you want to share screen so we can see it?
Yes. What I'm going to do here is because I don't know how to do this all at once, I'm going to step out of the visual
Okay.
and allow the painting to be the thing that you're going to see. So I'm not sure how much we will get to see it, but I want to be able to do this from you. So this painting, sorry about that, hang on for 1 second.
Oh, take your time.
The easel is a little cornered here. Okay, so I don't know if you could see this clearly or not. This is, and everybody please comment if you want. This is oil, and it is one of the mainstays of my series. It takes into consideration what this whole feeling is all about for me. Essentially, I grew up in a neighborhood that had very, very little interaction. If you were Jewish, you had one group of people. If you were Italian, or if you were any other recommendation, you had another group of people. So this is a painting that's done on wood because I wanted to create a feeling that it did not have a sense of ownership, but it had a broad sense of human quality to it. So, as I said, this is the first painting that I did because it really reached back quite far into my growing up. So this is the first painting. The second painting is when I started in the world of art as a creative director in the world of advertising. This next painting I'm going to show you is one that really focused on my true sense of how I began as an artist. So this piece got to move chair, okay. So this piece
Now, there are two ways to screen share. One is you connect to your computer and you share screen. And the other way is, as Larry's doing, you have your Zoom screen and you share it with your artwork.
Correct.
It's a much more direct approach, Larry. I like it.
So this piece is called The Ride Home. So when I was working in the communications world, and I was ahead of my life, being a creative director, being involved with the things that partake in my life, this thing is the first painting that you could start to see that has a feeling of luxuriousness, but it also has a feeling of wholeheartedness. And so this is all about traveling on the Long Island Railroad. And so what ended up happening for me here, I was inspired by many years of traveling. And in doing so on the railroad, it got to me one day and I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be traveling on the railroad. And I find that for me, the whole concept of doing that became a weight, as opposed to having the opportunity to explore what I want to do next in my life. So this is sitting on the railroad, and I really hated the railroad. I lived close enough that it was not a problem, because I lived in Great Neck. So, you know, it was easier to do that than to live in certain other areas here on the island. So, as I said, this is called The Ride Home. And I don't know, see, maybe I could pull this in a little bit. Pull this in here. That a little bit better?
It's good.
That looks
That's
good.
good. We can see it.
Okay, so this is the second one, and again, I call it The Ride Home. So this is a piece that I feel really brings me to my time as an artist, because I really feel the need where I could touch my youth and certainly the small amount of time that I had done this. So this is a ride home. Let me show you-
Larry, what did you dislike about traveling on the Long Island Railroad?
Well, as I said to you, I lived in Great Neck, and the opportunity of being able to travel on the railroad, I had rented a house, and then I bought a house in Great Neck, and I did that only because of the time commitment of traveling. There are a lot of people that travel, you know, an hour, 2 hours on the railroad, and I find it to be absolutely laborious. It's one of the hardest commutes that I found. So for me, the narrower of the time frame makes it easier for you to at least have some authenticity in your day, because most people, if they don't live on the Port Washington line, are dealing with an enormous amount of time. You could end up, you know, spending an hour and a half to 2 hours. So when I ended up leaving and doing this, it changed everything. But I did this for 40 years. And I got to the point where I hated it.
Okay.
You know, it's just, I was very lucky being able to do that with a short window. See that? God found me.
You liked your job as a art director in advertising?
Hold on 1 second. This is
Sure.
an important call. Hello? Yes. Who? Veronica. Wanda. Oh my gosh.
Put her on speakerphone.
That's it.
Okay. When are you? Listen, I have more than one. It is not something that you should feel stretched or emotional about. Not at all, sweetheart. Well, right. Okay. Okay. We will speak to you soon when you, so absolutely, love you, love you. Okay, dear, bye-bye. I'm sorry, guys, that was the client from the Uniworld. So I had to at least, chat with her for a few minutes. She travels all the time. So when she calls me, I have to make it my business to respond.
Of course, of course.
So let me move on, okay?
Okay.
So as I said, this is two, rather.
Well, Larry, while you're getting the next painting, I just want to say, this body of work, these two paintings, I really enjoy, your use of your composition, really filling the space and the sense of place. It's really different from the portraiture that you do. And as you know, I love that Bronx one enough to buy a print of it. And I just wanted you to know, I gave it to a friend of mine who grew up in the Bronx.
Oh, how lovely.
And he loves it. And it really brought back memories to him of being out on the fire escape in the summer when it was really hot and there was no air conditioning and stuff like that. So, so the piece really, resonates.
I
So-
really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just wanted you to know that.
Sometimes those things are more, as I said, more in depth than you would forget. So I'm happy that you said that. Really.
Yeah, well, plus, and the reason another reason I don't have memories of the Bronx. I loved it visually because of it had a strong sense of light and place as well as abstract. It just worked as an abstraction for me. Just a geometric, graphic image. So, and then the fact that it really was a place and all of that, I just really liked, and it was so different from your portraits that was just another thing I really liked about it, that it felt more abstract design. So
Right.
just yeah.
How long ago would you say you did that, Larry?
I think I started these series 6 months, 8 months ago.
Okay, so still very recent then.
Yes, relatively recent. So when I started doing these, it was really part of an effort on my part after I did the first one, which you saw. It's just started exploring the things that attracted me to the Bronx. So, I grew up there, so I have it lots of different ways. This one is really the prelude to the next one I'm going to show you. And the reason it's the prelude is because it takes place in the 50s. This is a painting that represents my traveling to all the different parts of the Bronx because I was a pool hustler. So I ended up traveling everywhere to shoot a game. And I'm going to show you the second one of the series, of this series. So
So Larry, when you were pool hustling, did you actually go in and play like a little less than your ability and
So
start to get to know the people?
Sure. Oh, my God. I never would have thought. I love it. I bet you. Yeah, I'll play, old guy.
So what ended up happening was, having been able to travel everywhere, just want to see what happened here.
Well, most people, after they do the traditional tour of Italy and Europe, they then go to the Bronx and they do the full Bronx tour to really flesh out the full cultural experience of the globe.
You know, I don't know where it is. I thought I had it in here. Bear with me 1 second. I'm sorry I'm taking up so much of your time, guys.
No, we got a nice casual night tonight. I'm actually, after this, I finish packing. I'm traveling next. I wake up tomorrow at a little before 4 o'clock in the morning,
Wow.
doing one of those crazy early flights. Going away for a beach
Did you say the
vacation.
Dominican Republic?
Dominican Republic, that's right.
Nice. See, I remember.
Perfect time to leave.
Yeah, although it looks a little shaky tomorrow morning, but it'll be fun.
Oh, yeah.
So
Good to get out early.
this is a second piece that's coming off of here. So I'm going to hold it up and then I'm going to read it to you.
Oh, yeah.
So what this is me shooting inside of a pool room. And I thought it was the coolest thing since sliced bread. The guy who was standing outside watched me. And then he watched me more. And then I realized he was looking for someone to shoot pool with. And of course, I thought I was the coolest thing since sliced bread, right? I thought for sure I was the best thing since, since Paul Newman in The Great Hustler. Except the guy in the hat was hustling me. And it was great. You know, I really thought I was the coolest, right? Look at my hair. Down to here, right? So anyhow, I'll read to you what I wrote. It says, the Bronx Hustler. I grew up as a pool hustler in the Bronx. I thought I was Fast Eddie, Paul Newman, and Jackie Gleason in The Hustler. I traveled around the Bronx, winning a lot of money. I thought it was the best. Yeah, but one day I got my cue balls handed to me. And I won a lot of money, but those were fast times and great nights, and I gave it all back. So
That's
it's fun.
So Larry, on a good night, what did you hustle and make? And we're talking 1950s, are we?
50s, yeah.
So what was a good night? $5?
No. A good night was, could be in the hundreds,
It's a lot of money in the 50s.
a lot of money. I
Yeah.
mean, I had a terrific, the word is, you asked me before, I had a terrific stroke and I was able to play either straight pool or billiards.
Uh-huh.
I was one of the guys who was capable of being able to do that. Because sometimes a guy who plays billiards is not the same kind of pool player as the guy who shoots um, billiards or straight pool. It requires a different sense and sensitivity to the art, because it is an art of pool and or billiards. So when I said hundreds of dollars, it was hundreds of dollars. I ended up having the ability to transfer from one to the other. So, if you remember the film, The Hustler, Paul Newman literally ends up being able to do that. He ends up being able to play both pool, straight pool, and billiards. So I really felt like I had the competency to do that. And that's why, you traveled all over the Bronx. And
Yeah, but when you went into a pool hall and then, you end up taking a lot of money, that people give you funny looks.
yes,
Did you have incidents where they were felt like you were hustling them and they wanted to take it out on your nose?
yes, I think they wanted to take it out of my nose.
Did you ever have trouble collecting?
No,
Never.
it's cash.
Yeah, I know.
So
They didn't Venmo you the money?
no one owed me the money.
Did you have like a big friend with you?
Yes, I did have a big friend,
Your
but
pool-
it was really great,
Yeah,
as you go from location to location, you end up seeing how the difference is in the communities and how the difference is in people. It's funny, I did not run into, death be not proud. There were people there that were hustlers,
yeah.
and you knew at times who you're going to end up, shooting with, or who you're going to end up having an issue with.
Yeah.
You end up getting into those kind of
Yeah.
scenarios.
Yeah. Did you have a nickname? Like, Cincinnati Kid or the
Um,
Bronx Bomber or something?
The name that comes to my mind now is Bisque, 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 and
Bisque.
Bisque. And I don't know why, but
Like
that
this.
comes to my
Like the
mind,
soup, like the soup,
like the soup.
like the soup.
So,
That's what I always say, my initials are BSK, like the soup.
right. So anyhow, so this is, again, one of the nice pieces.
Larry, did your father shoot pool?
Actually, my father did.
Yeah, it was a kind of thing back then. My dad shot pool. That was I guess it was very common. You shot pool, you went to the racetrack, right?
Right.
That was, and you probably went to the fights, right?
All right, you hit a home run.
Those-
You hit a home run.
It's funny how things have changed. I
Right?
guess- Yes.
Let me just tell you what this is called. It's called the Golden Gloves. It said, I wanted the painting to have a gutsy, unfinished quality, just like the fights. When I was a kid, my dad was always working. One day he asked me to go with him to see the Golden Gloves, fights at the old Madison Square Garden. I never knew how great the fights were in real life. I've always enjoyed them ever since, and I thank my dad for giving me my first chance to see them live. I'll always remember my dad and the Golden Gloves. So it's interesting that you say that, and you get to see another aspect of the painting. But it's funny, you see it and I see it. And it's interesting. I love it. I just love it because it is so different. You know, it's not like somebody says to you, hey, who's doing that? What's doing that? There really is a perspective of just how beautiful it was. I mean, it was really beautiful. So anyhow, but this is the Golden Globes. So let's see if you can pick out another thing and I could fulfill that.
Corned beef sandwiches. Corned beef sandwiches. Were you painting corned beef sandwiches like everyone else in the 50s?
Corned beef sandwiches, let's see.
Pull it out.
So I'm going to show you a couple of things from a little bit later in my life.
I think what's obvious here, Larry is, you know, as an artist, is showing you he paints what he knows, what he experiences, what's relevant to him, what he likes. Can an artist do anything else?
I think an artist should do what he feels is important to him. I agree with the point that was made. This is two different mindsets that I'm going to share with you. This it represents me when I was younger. When I was growing up, my dad worked all the time. He did not have terrific opportunities, so he worked 3 jobs.
No.
And consequently, when he worked the 3 jobs, he would make it his business to find something for me to do. So what I'd end up doing is I'd end up going to the movies. So my father would take me to the movies and he'd leave me there all day, weekends, of course. And then what would happen is I'd end up having the opportunity to be a person that is totally in love with the entertainment world. And, you know, I ended up seeing things and understanding what goes on in the art world and the rest of the world. And if I'm, by the way, and if I'm just getting a little boring to people, I'll be happy to stop.
No, you're good, Larry. We're your friends.
That's great. So, all right. So this is, I think, a really interesting picture. It represents a young guy who is now obviously a little bit older, but it just it touched so much of my history, and so that's one aspect. So this is another aspect. Okay, so let me just take this off here and get to see this. So this painting is me when I was younger, obviously, and my dad would drop me off. So what would happen here is, this to me is called Fantasyland. And I'll read it to you. It says, morning turns into night. I was a crime fighter, a time traveler, a cowboy, a kooky kid growing up. I loved the movies. It was my home, safe from whatever else was real. During the 50s, my dad would drop me off and I would end up being in the movie theaters all day long. And it was a very, very wonderful time. So when my dad would take me, I'd end up watching 30 cartoons, a B film, movie tone news, another B film, and then the feature film. I was scared to death with the Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It was a film that was so poignant. It just was a great film. So anyhow, after seeing that, I never slept again. It was just mind driven. So it was all about, my parents knew how much I loved the films, But here's something that's really interesting, and that is my parents never told me that it was an industry. So I played it by ear, and had they told me it was an industry, I would have done something different. But in any case, yeah, it drove me to a whole other way of seeing things. So it's funny, Barry, you talk about these things and it's just mind-boggling. For me, it's mind-boggling. So anyhow,
How old were you when you would be, you'd be left to have a day of movies by yourself? Were we talking 12-year-old?
oh yeah, definitely 12 years old. So it's interesting, you look at these things and you think about them in today's world, and it's different. I just think about the things that we end up doing, and I end up feeling the openness that we end up having. And it's wonderful to be able to look at it and enjoy it. But another thing. So, all right. So I'm talking about that. I want to go to just one more piece, or maybe two more pieces. So when I decided to do likelihood paintings and things, I just didn't have a lot of space. So I ended up doing what I think most people my age might do, and that is go back to the beginning of it, and you say to yourself, what can I do to make what I see an integrated part of this curriculum that I created for myself? So in this one, and I know it may be a little hard to see. Let me move it closer.
It actually works because we can pin you. I pin you every once in a while. I get it really close. We see it well even on the screen.
Okay, so this is something that I don't know if anybody else has done, but I lived in an apartment, and as I said, the apartment was really a symbol of the place where I grew up. So the effort that I took here was really about living in a very interesting world. Again, I'm a kid here. So what this represents is obviously a window. I ended up living on the fire escape. And on the fire escape, the things that interested me was, of course, the idea that I could live outside because there was no other alternative. We had no air conditioning. And consequently, everything I did was revolving around that. So I have a fire escape here, and I have a railroad train, which we live by the train. And we ended up having a fair amount of, of opportunity to be outside because it was, in fact, the only place that you could spend time and you could enjoy it. So I really do feel very lucky about that. So this is another one. And I call this one, is it here?
Larry,
Yes.
do you reference photographs, or is this just from your memory of childhood? Or do you have actual images that you reference in your painting?
Right. So yes, they're all referenced. And yes, I do use some pieces that are important. I do look at opportunities such as, let's see, I'm trying to think about what's the best way. I look at stuff on different places, and I'm always paying attention to different things. So if I see something that I find very, very interesting, I will pull that something and put it off to the side, so that in case I do have another idea, I could look at it and pull it back. So sometimes I make it up out of the blue. And sometimes I don't. I find a piece of slight reference that I really want to make a different kind of a painting. So it varies, but I think that in today's world, there's an awful lot of opportunity to find imagery. And what I'll do is, if I see something that I like, then what I'll do is I'll just take the photo and I'll put it aside. So there is both sides to that. If I see something I like, I'll hold on to it. I'll give you an idea. I have two things that I found very interesting. And this goes back to another time. My parents would end up sending me to bakery, and I'd end up having the opportunity to eat bread, so that I would end up now becoming a person that's able to have the bread. So I would go to the bakery, and then I would end up having the bread so I could enjoy it. And so now I have found two images that I really enjoy. And so I'm looking at this next one, which is all about finding the right image for me as one of the I'll call it the conveyor interests. You go to a glass market, a market, and you end up finding the imagery. So I'm now working on another piece of imagery. So it'll be interesting once I get this done. And I'm hoping it turns out nicely. I'm waiting to make it happen. So
And what material, are you usually working in acrylics, Larry?
no, these are all oil.
All oils.
Right.
Why do you prefer oils?
Well, I feel very comfortable with them. It's for me, it's an opportunity. Like the one I just told you about, that's going to be done in oil, and may be only just one color. I may just do the whole thing as an image that I like. And if that's the case, great. But there's some times where it doesn't change, and end up working with it. I enjoy the fact that I feel very comfortable working with one of the great prescribed pheasants. It's great, I enjoy it. So, but anyhow, so that's one that I'm working on.
So Larry, these are all memories.
Yes,
Memories from your time and you're doing these are now, but they're memories from a time past.
correct.
Oh, amazing. These are amazing.
I'll show you. When I went to art school, I ended up having a very, very unique opportunity. In the 60s, when I went to art school, I ended up going and enjoying seeing all of the things that I knew as a young guy that came to life. So what ended up happening, and this is a really unique piece, what ended up happening was that you ended up doing things based on, obviously, things that you find interesting. So when I was doing those, the piece I'm talking about now, I'm going to show you, is about the opportunity to find yourself doing things that you really thought was great. And this piece, I don't know if you can see it. Can everyone see this? This is John Coltrane. Now, let me tell you why it's John Coltrane. So when I was in art school, I ended up going to art classes and to take the class. One of the people said to me, you know, John Coltrane is doing work at night. And I said, really? He said, yeah, he's doing it in his space. So John Coltrane was doing work and playing at night so that he felt that he could bear the burden and the taxation of doing the art. So once I found that out, I tried to get to see him play. He was one of the great idols, Coltrane. So I ended up not finding him because I couldn't figure out where he was. Now, you know, people say, oh, he's at the Brooklyn Bridge. Couldn't find him. Then when I got into the advertising world, someone that I knew did a complete commercial, and he was the star of the commercial, John Coltrane. So that's what this is about. I don't know if you guys can see it.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so that's
It's,
another
yeah,
one.
it's really nice, Larry. I like that it's in black and white.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
What I really like is I didn't want to make it a one-trick pony, so I felt the need to be all different kind of paintings. So that's why I like the idea of the oil. So anyhow, so that's it. That's two more. I'm going to show you two more, and this is really an interesting piece. So while I was in art school, I went to the School of Visual Arts here in Manhattan, and I ended up, you know, finding, as I like to call it, red boots. There was a woman who I felt very, very close to in art school. She was a totally different person. She was a fashionista. And for a fashionista, it was just great. So I ended up having gone to school in Manhattan, and the woman who I ended up doing a painting of was just stunning. She was a very stunning looking woman. So I ended up going out to her, she lived with her parents. So I ended up going out to her home, and it was really interesting. So I'm gonna read you this, and then I'll show you the painting. Okay, it's called Red Boots, a Bronx Motorcycle Diary. Short clip from my motorcycle diaries. I don't know if I told you, but I also had a motorcycle. So I was in art school and I drove a motorcycle to art class. I fell for this really super sexy artsy girl, a real art school fashionista, with long red, with long hair and a mustache from the Bronx, her with looks and the best of the rest. So I would drive out to her home on Long Island, and I remember pulling up to her driveway and watching the blinds squeeze open as a pair of eyes, watching the blinds squeeze open as pairs of eyes watched her get on my bike, and we drove off. I can only imagine what her parents were thinking. Hey, they were right. You know, I was just in love with this girl. I never married her, though.
Great.
So it was just great. Okay? So now here's my interpretation of the girl.
Oh, okay, just the boots. Let's see.
Nice.
What kind of bike was that, Larry?
I had a Harley.
Of course.
Yeah.
But she really looked good on a Harley.
You could tell our age, David. You see a photo like that, you don't ask a question about the red boot or how big is that heel. You go right to the motorcycle.
That's it.
That'd be a stiletto.
It's a fond memory. We can tell. It's a fond memory.
Absolutely.
That's red vinyl or red leather.
Red boots. So I'm going to give you one more thing. I mean, I have more, but I just want to give you one more. So my dad, and I mentioned it before, was a hardworking guy. So he would get up at 5:30 in the morning to go to work. And one of the things that I wanted to do was I just wanted to have a sense of, him, my father, being part of my life. So this is painting I did. And I'll read you the title. It's called 5:30 a.m. My dad worked 3 jobs, morning and night and weekends, to put food on our table and a roof over our head. As I look back over his life, I couldn't be any prouder of him. I know and feel his struggles, his hopes and desire to also do the right thing. My dad was a man who put his family first before anything else. That is what a father is, a man of honor. I've learned a lot from him. So this is the painting.
Very sweet sentiments, Larry.
Thank you. So this is my father taking the railroad.
And it's the same photo of the red stiletto and the motorcycle.
Oh my
Now
God.
it all makes sense.
No.
So this will give you the overall cross section of the paintings I've been working on. So anyhow,
So you did that with the absence of your father.
yes, my father passed away. So I made that up. You know,
I like the new work, Larry.
thank you so
And
much.
it seems like a nice place to go at this stage of your life to really remember the past and document it in such a powerful visual way. It seems like an important thing for you to do
Thank
as
you.
an artist for yourself and for your family.
Mm,
Yeah.
So
it's
what
tough.
I also have done, and I've been, you know, as you know, Barry, I've been pretty lucky with the fact that the client is a person who is a very, very sweet woman. But one of the things I did was I made a book And the book has, oh, I don't know, 40 or 50 pages. And it has all of the different things that I felt would be, in my estimation, things that were important. So I'll give you an idea. The cover for the book that I created
Oh, that's nice.
And then I'll show you one piece that I absolutely love. I'm very, very lucky. I met a person in 2016 or 2015 who was he was, I think, the person who was, well, in any case, he was a publisher of this magazine. I don't know if you know the magazine. It's no longer around anymore.
Mm,
Ooh. Cool.
And that's one of my.
nice cover.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's really interesting. This piece ended up being one of the pieces that I ended up using at the shows in Florida.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing tonight, Larry. Thank you.
No,
Thank you, Larry.
I want to say
Yeah, I love
thank
the
you for
work
allowing me
there.
to share. I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I love hearing all the personal stuff and the stories too. It's behind it. Yeah, I loved it. I never would have guessed you were a pool shark, dude. I
Well,
love hearing that.
thank you.
Thank you, Larry. That was so interesting. Just all the different things you've done and using your memory, and the paintings are beautiful.
Thank you.
Really a Bronx tale.
My favorite is actually the ride home. And I think it's because of the emotion it evokes.
On the train to ride home.
Mm,
Like that, what's that word I'm looking for? The sadness, the kind of like, oh,
Melancholy.
melancholy.
melancholy, yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely a melancholy, no question about it.
little Hopper-esque maybe.
Yes, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Feel the time passing while you're watching or looking. It's active.
Yeah.
Interesting, the windows too, because one of them you're looking out the window and the other one you're looking inward.
Mm.
Mm.
Good point. Very
Yeah.
good point.
You also, you can't help but hear how proud you were of your father in the stories you told. And Larry, you're not 21, you're a mature man like myself. You're in your 60s or a little more. And it's still an experience that's current. And I think that's a beautiful thing, in a way. And I think the stories you told about 1950, they're very real. Time washes away a lot, but there are some things that it doesn't wash away. And whether it's your father or an experience of freedom on a fire escape, which, by the way, somebody else could have interpreted that experience as like a little devastating. There's not a lot of fresh air here. I'm stuck on the fire escape sleeping. Everyone's seeing my pajamas. I don't even have pajamas. It can get a little complicated. But you sort of take everything, with a lot of joy. And, you're talking about your work in the last 6 months, 3 months, 9 months, and it's all like fresh and active. And we had a speaker recently, Judith Margolis, and when she spoke, she talked about like, well, I'm changing this and I'm doing that, and I'm going to do that. And I think it's something we do as artists, that we don't sit in the same chair. We sort of keep moving. We sort of have things maybe from 30 years ago we want to evolve or get out, or maybe other things we want to try. I think we're lucky in that way. We get to be creatives. And it sort of keeps us going. It keeps us fresh. Maybe it keeps us young, and maybe it's as simple as it gives us a reason to live too.
Mm.
Well, I want to tell you, I really appreciate you thinking that I'm in my 60s.
63, 64.
You haven't
And
come,
being so visual, like those scenes are probably imprinted in your mind, those experiences, and now they're coming out.
you're right. As I said, I guess it was a while ago, and it just, there's no limit to what goes through a person's mind. A writer's going to write, a painter's going to paint. And I think it's absolutely a fantastic thing that you and all creative people do, is they're able to reach in and reach out to, I think, the best parts of their time. I look at the imagery, and some people say, and I say, okay, you're right. For you, it's for me, it's not and you end up you end up being open, and then you end up realizing what are the things that are important to you. All of the things that are important to me now is, and I'll just give you a quickie. So you look at the important things. All of my family.
Oh,
If you could see it all.
Yes.
Nice. That's sweet, man.
So there is a great deal of warmth, and I'm very, very happy that I have this office.
It looks like a great space.
Happy for
It's
you.
wonderful, and I feel very, very lucky that this is not my studio, this is my office. So I could end up having, all of the things that I want. And, if you guys want to see it, I'll show you my studio. I took all of the stuff and
Maybe a spring trip would be fun. I'm
Good idea.
going to try and come out and see Larry, and maybe I'll put the word out. I do have to mention, I actually saw one of the Zoom participants here in real life, and I want to point out, Audrey is not a Russian bot. She is a real person. I saw her Friday night, 3-dimensional, front, back, sides, the round. She speaks. I went to that opening of, it was about 70 women at the El Barrio project space at a public school. It was around 99th and Lexington Avenue. And I went there just in mind to see people like Audrey, who I've never seen. And it was fun to bump into a few friends who I'd never seen, and some that I'd seen once or twice before. That show's probably up, I would imagine, for another month. Very nice show. It was nice to see you, Audrey. And of course,
It was very nice to see you in person. It's kind of like see your face and wait, this is the 3-dimensional Barry. And I told Joseph, and my husband, and he was very disappointed because he overhears some of these hive gatherings, and he's always very interested in what you have to say. So one of these days we have to make sure we introduce you two as well. But it was very nice of you to come. And it is a nice show. It's a huge show, a lot of interesting women artists.
yes, yeah, a full variety, a lot of works in two separate spaces. They're sort of linked by a stairs. Hopefully more gatherings in person when the spring comes together. I'd love to have you all over and cook a meal for you. That would be a lot of fun. David Gregory, start walking now.
Well, speaking of cooking a meal, I'm cooking something, so I have to go to the kitchen and my son's going down. But Barry, have a wonderful time away.
Thank you.
And sounds great. We look forward to hearing about it when you return. And thank you, Larry, and good to see everybody. Thank you, Mo.
Yeah.
And I gotta sign off now.
Thanks,
But
everybody.
we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Larry. That was wonderful.
Thank you so
Enjoyed
much.
that very much.
Thank you, Larry.
Have a
Safe
good night.
travels, Barry.
Everybody. We'll
Bye,
have a-
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. We'll have a week off on the 21st. Bye.
Good
Thank
night.
Bye-bye,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Again, thank you, Mo. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.